Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to this Zeald webinar, the sixth in our Keep Calm and Get Digital series. My name is Jarrah, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. It's great to see so many people tuned in and also see a few familiar names there as well. Welcome back to those who've attended our previous webinars. We're 3 weeks through this initial lockdown period, and what is now very clear is that while we may ease restrictions when we go to level 3, potentially after 4 weeks, the way we do business is seriously going to have to change. That is why today's topic is so important. It's around lead generation in these transformational times. We have some fantastic speakers today. Digital business strategist John Homer is with us. John has helped an incredible number of businesses transform digitally over the years, and we're very lucky to have him speak with us today. Also presenting and returning is Titus, Senior Digital Specialist at Zeald, and one of our most skilled practitioners in this area. It's probably appropriate if I click through and show you their photos as well. Got to keep the presentation up to speed with where I'm talking. So for those of you who haven't joined us before, a little bit of an introduction to how these webinars run. You'll see there is a little control panel down the bottom of your Zoom system. If you wish to ask a question at any point, please use the Q&A panel here. You're free to ask questions at any time. If it's appropriate, I will interrupt the speaker and we'll discuss that question if it's appropriate. Otherwise, we will hold off those questions and address them when we get to the Q&A section towards the end of the webinar. So I hope you enjoy today's session and get some valuable insights into how to generate leads. I'd like to invite John now to we'll take his presentation and get started. Welcome, John. It's nice to have you here.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for having me. Let me just pull that up now. I hope you can see my screen. Thank you for the opportunity of being able to meet with everyone over webinar today. And yeah, the big topic today is lead generation and transformation times. Maybe if I just start off quite high level, what I'm going to cover off today is the following: how people are searching in their time of need. So what are in consumers, what are people's behavior showing us over these last 3 weeks as we've gone into COVID-19? I'll cover off a little bit about how we need to prepare now and prepare quickly. And then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of why you're really here, which is around what we can take away as a practical guide on how to generate leads and sales. For some of us, it might be new. For some of us, it may not be. But it's really good to have that reinforcement of what that might look like. And what we'll be covering off specifically today is around lead magnets and what they are and what they can do, and also lead nurturing and why it's important that we align our lead nurturing process or systems to how we can attract new clients and new customers. The last piece there will be around online bookings. That's nothing new to you, but some real nice tips around how we can generate more sales as a result of forward thinking, especially as we come, hopefully, touch wood, we come out of level 4 and move into alert level 3. So how are people using search in their time of need? I wanted to maybe just cover off a few things here. From a Google's perspective, when they've looked at data across the different markets, what they've picked up, and particularly the most 5 important behaviors, is that people are going to Google search in particular to assemble critical information. You'd know that for anyone in your household, they're searching information either to do a number of different things, searching to find out what is the major status of where New Zealand is at with the lockdown period, or looking at critical information of trying to find different software to help their business move forward, coming out of alert level 4 to alert level 3. But what they're going to search on Google is how they can find this critical information. So that's been one major important findings there. The second thing is discovering new connections and nurturing relationships. Well, we started fairly early in the piece, but for Zeald, what we did is that we reached out to a number of businesses and we said to them, hey, we're going to hold these webinars to help them through this radical change of what they've originally been doing to what they now need to look forward to doing. And so, discovering new connections, nurturing these relationships, but also you'll notice it on a personal level too. For most family members, and in particular mine, I've been able to use Zoom as a way and means of being able to keep in contact with them. And I'm sure a lot of businesses have done the same thing. They've been able to reach out to their staff to be able to nurture those relationships too. And so from a customer point of view, and for Zeald, we've been able to utilize this particular software to keep in contact with our clients. The third thing is adjusting to changes in routines. And for me, it wasn't so much an adjustment. I've actually worked from home for quite some time, but for a huge amount of people out there or staff out there, adjusting to working from home has been a huge thing. And so, you would actually, believe it or not, people are searching Google to find out ways of how they can adjust their routine and what are people doing and how they can adapt. And so that sort of forms a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. The fourth thing here is praising everyday heroes. You probably have, if you haven't already joined, there's that 7 p.m. clap. But people once again are searching of how to praise other heroes from a Google search. The last thing here, though, is taking care of themselves or taking care of yourselves and others. Obviously, fitness has become a huge piece to the puzzle now. Going out for walks has been a huge puzzle. But one thing that I wanted to share with you, and maybe Jared can allude to this, but if for those attendees that attended last week's webinar, I think Jared shared with us his personal experience about his neighbor actually asking him to assist them with trying to set up an online shopping account. And that's one way of taking care of them, taking care of others. So yeah, Jared, just wanted to thank you there.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, that's exactly right. Actually, just before we went into lockdown, I got a knock on the door from my next door neighbour who had kind of actually reached out the day before and just said, if there's anything you need, just let us know. And she came around, and she's in her 70s and had never shopped online before, and just asked me to help her set up her online shopping account so that she was able to actually shop online and do so safely, because she wanted to maintain her bubble, and just to help her set up. And I think that community spirit's definitely out there, and I think there is definitely a trend that we're seeing there, just taking care of everyone, and it's great to highlight that Google's actually seeing that in their data as well. Just one small point, I had a message there from Elaine that's come through. We are recording this webinar, and you will have an opportunity to view it later on. We'll have it up on YouTube for you later today. So if you miss anything and you want to go back and look at it again, you can. So thanks, John. Sorry, just
Awesome.
Question there. So.
Thanks, mate. If we get to preparing now and prepare quickly, I probably don't even have to introduce who this is, but for those who have been following the 1 p.m. updates very rigorously, Jacinda mentioned last week this specific quote. She said, "Life after lockdown will not be the same. Businesses should prepare now and prepare quickly, but focus on how you plan to operate and function efficiently or differently under alert level 3. But I suppose this is the most and key takeaway, is how do you ensure that physical distancing if you are in a warehouse or things like that, to adhere to that, to her statement there. And the reason why I share that is because the way that we now interact with our customers and the way we interact with our staff requires change, which is why it's important that we look at continuously looking at generating leads, building customer base, and generating online sales. But from this keyword being contactless, how do we make it contactless? And Jacinda's mentioned contactless a number of times over the last 3 weeks. And the thing is, unfortunately, this is going to be the new norm of doing business. I can't stress that enough. So prepare now, prepare quickly.
One of the terms that we've been throwing around a little bit lately is contactless commerce. And so for services businesses as well, is like, how do you gear up for those changes and work out how to deliver your services without any contact? And so, yeah, that's just a little term I thought I'd throw out there. It's something that we've it kind of sums up what we're all having to kind of adjust to.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Jarrah. So, practical guide to how to generate leads and sales. Obviously, your messaging is important. And the reason why I say that is because it's the most powerful way of ensuring that your business is keeping your customers informed. The next piece here is What message you end up telling your audience will often help you either retain your existing clients or gain new clients. You could even lose clients if you don't have the right messaging. But the right messaging is important because you want to be able to share that information to keep your clients or any new clients informed. So let's just take a look at your online presence. And I'm going to specifically refer to your website here. There's two aspects to your website. One is promotion, and then two is persuasion. The differences between the two is that promotion is the ability of your website to attract the right type of visitors. So it's essentially, if you just put your business hat on and you start thinking about your client, well, what does the actual end consumer look like for you? And what does that right type of visitor look like for you? Persuasion is slightly different. It's how you effectively use your website to turn those visitors, your right type of visitor, into leads or sales. Okay, so giving them what it is that you want them to do. So let's get into this. So what we're gonna cover specifically today is about website lead magnets, and I'm just going to give you a high-level introduction, and then I'm going to turn some time over to Titus to take you through the detail. But website magnets, the best way to describe this is that it's an exchange of detail or content. So I believe Zeald do it quite well in the sense that Zeald provide a free ebook to anyone that wants a free ebook. We can provide them with that service or with that particular document. However, what we've done is that we've provided a call to action on our website page. It allows the traffic that ends up on our site, the end consumer or the business owner, to choose to click on the ebook, the free ebook. We capture some content from them, so the contact details, if name and number, the email address, and then we provide their free ebook for them and we allow them to download it. Now the thing is that we've captured their details. It allows us to do one of two things. It allows us to be able to call that particular business owner back and ask that business owner about a couple of things. What was it that they found important? What would they like to talk about? And if there's an opportunity, we've identified a few things. It's aligned to what we call our awareness funnel, in the sense that we're wanting to generate traffic. And that's why we've had this website lead magnet. It allows us to generate a prospect, and then hopefully it allows us to generate a customer. So that's just a bit of a high level aspect on what website lead magnets are. However, when we get into lead nurturing systems, and this is really the crux of it, this is the really exciting stuff for the strategists. And Jara and I, we love this kind of stuff. But essentially what it is that if you think about your pathway to purchase or your customer journey, and you think about the different stages within their consideration. So if you think about their awareness stage, their consideration stage, their decision-making stage, essentially the lead nurturing system allows us to be able to align the marketing to be able to capture and enforce and basically allow us to be able to ensure that we're going to be providing them a call to, or a reason to get in touch with you from an awareness stage, you know, or a consideration stage, or from a decision stage. And so we want to make sure that the process or the tool or the strategy that we put in place, whatever is aligned to your lead nurturing process or system, will align a solution to be able to help you achieve that. And Titus will share a little bit more in detail about that later today.
And often, John, it's that lead magnet is what kicks off the lead nurturing program, right? So if someone downloads an ebook or whatever, once you've got their contact details, they may not be ready to buy, but you can continue to communicate with them and kind of guide their thinking until they are ready to buy. And as you rightly point, it's quite an exciting area to work within to help businesses start to develop their own leads from a kind of technical point of view. So like creating a bit of a system to make that happen, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. The last thing that I want to cover off, oh, actually, there's a few more slides. But online booking, I don't really need to tell you too much about online booking, but essentially what it is that you want to make this online booking or the call to action or the thing that you want the customer to do once they land on your website, the easiest way of getting them to make a purchase. So I suppose the tip here is that if you've got a 4-click or 5-click or a 6-click to purchasing or checking out the client to then make that purchase, then look at your conversion pathway within the website, because if you're able to reduce that by a couple of clicks, that's an opportunity that you could actually turn that interested client that's actually going to purchase something into a retained client that will continue to purchase. You want to make sure that that conversion online booking pathway is seamless. So the last thing I wanted to cover off was just the marketing efforts, and it'll tie us up quite nicely in this next in the next or the remaining part of the presentation. Marketing efforts. So most marketing efforts focus on 3% of the market audience, and the reason for that is because every marketer is trying to promote a call to action in that top 3%. But what about the other 97%? Yeah, and so what I'd like to do is pass the time over to Titus to now take us through what we do, but also what he believes is the most important for that remaining 97%.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thanks a lot, John. All right, so you're just getting a bit more into the, I guess, the technical sides of these things. What John said is absolutely right, and it's one of the biggest things which is missed out by most businesses today is the fact that everyone, well, I said 90 to 95% companies, they're all focusing on this top 3% of that funnel. I say top 3%, sometimes the funnel is upside down, sometimes it's this way up, but that 3% is that point where people know they want to buy something. Say I want to buy a Sony X3000 whatever TV. I know I want to buy it. It's just a case of where I want to buy it. I might be in that 3% because I know I want to buy it. The rest of the funnel is everyone else. And usually you're focused on Google AdWords or even Facebook, anything to do with direct marketing. It's often about closing the sale as quickly as possible. And you're really focusing on that 3%, but the rest of the 95% are at very different stages of the life cycle. And now more than ever, that is a big deal, because now a lot of people have a more resistance to making that final decision to purchase, and it sets them back down the funnel. They're a bit more on the cautious side. They're spending more time deciding who to go with, and they're also, just generally more conservative with their funds. So we need to think about that other 97% a lot more. And how do we do that? So if we, the first real key thing to think about is that before we can do anything, we really need to find a way of providing value to the customer. We're talking about nurturing people at this point in the funnel. People, when I talk about the funnel, I'm talking about the marketing funnel, which is that funnel which I think Jara and John were talking about, but I guess we should probably contextualize. You've probably seen it's a funnel where at the top you're at brand awareness, and it drives you down through to a sense of a bit more awareness of the product, making a decision as to what the product is, and then deciding that you actually want to buy and you're ready to convert. But we need to be able to provide
oh, sorry, Titus, do you mind if I just make just one little comment? So every single purchase that people make go through a buying funnel, right? And so they start with not really aware all the way through to purchasing. And that every purchase tends to go through that process, sometimes really quickly, sometimes very slowly. If it's 10 o'clock in the morning and I'm in a new place and I want a coffee, my awareness goes up very quickly. I'll have a look around and see who provides coffee and make a decision. And so going through that whole buying funnel could take maybe a minute if at tops before I make a purchasing decision. But generally, when there's a service involved or there's a larger investment required, people take a lot longer through that funnel. And so I suppose that's what we're talking about today is how do we help and guide people through that funnel with the right pieces of content and provide some value to help create that positive momentum towards the bottom of the funnel. And I just thought it was, just just understanding that every purchase goes through that process is something I think is quite critical. So I hope you don't mind me jumping in with that, Titus, but I just thought I'd pass that on.
No, that's really good, and it's often very hard to conceptualize if you're not familiar with the way with what a marketing funnel is. So that's great. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jara. But the real thing we need to do if we want to capture people when they're not really at that buying purchase is we want to instigate value. We want to actually form a relationship with that customer way ahead of that time, because people might actually, if they're at an earlier stage in their buying process, a higher level in that funnel, they might actually not need to buy this product until a half a year down the line. But now is the perfect time to be nurturing a relationship with them. You can offer them value without selling to them now, and really warm them up for that sale later. And to do this, one of the key things we want to really do is we need to know the customer and what problems that they need solving. Okay, so for example, if you're in the DIY industry, you know, Bunnings and all of that, they're closed at the moment. People want to do a lot of DIY now, though. They can't necessarily get all the goods, but they want to do that sort of stuff. So what are the problems that they're facing with? You can't sell to them now, so now more than ever, you want to help them out by helping them with DIY questions, and then later on, that's a way of nurturing them. Later on, you can talk to them about a bit more conversion topic items, so a bit more about the sale. Okay.
So are you saying, Titus, basically it's just start a conversation with them now and give them what they need while they're at this stage, and you're going to be able to sell to them much more effectively later on?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, you know, an example is if you're a hairdresser, everyone, the amount of people, mainly women, who have come to me and they're saying they're all talking about hair. You know, you can't cut your hair at the moment. You can't go to get hairdressing. But if you provide people value, even in telling them what your job is, this is how you can do a haircut. It might be a YouTube video, it might be a PDF, an ebook on how to do these things. You give them that value now, they'll remember it later. And then when they need it later, whether it's a local business or a big e-commerce business, a big national e-commerce business, they'll think about you before they go to anyone else. And that's the whole point in lead nurturing. Now, to do this, we talk about the subject of lead magnets. So that's a really powerful strategy for being able to drive, form these relationships, instigate this initial connection, and then form a relationship and provide the value to the customer. Before we do much on that subject, to get a lead magnet, we need to work out what topic that's going to be about. So John mentioned at Zeald we do ebooks, and those ebooks are like very much about they're very much about you know, how you can benefit from website, how you can convert more customers, how you can promote better. We tell them how to do what we do, you know, that we give away that knowledge for free, because it helps people, you know, it genuinely helps people and provides people with value. So what we need to do is we need to be able to provide people with, we need to be able to answer key questions that people are asking. So we call these things, these questions, hair on fire questions. Every industry has a hair on fire question. You know, you may not necessarily know what they are. You might think you know what they are, but every industry has them. And those hair on fire questions can be things like what I just talked about, you know, in the hair industry and things like that. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, people are looking for things, and there are ways of finding those topics. Loads of tools online that you can find those topics. And once you find those topics that people are searching for actively, you can actually use this tool here. This is a tool called Ask the Public, where you can actually type in a search for whatever your topic is or whatever your question is, and it will come up with a huge array of the most popular search terms in your country or in the world. And it's really useful for finding out what people are searching for. You don't want to create, you know, you spend a lot of time creating a lead magnet, an ebook or a video for something that really hardly anybody's interested. You want to find out what people are looking for. And to do that, we've got a whole load of let me just jump straight to this. We've got some expert tips on ways we do this. It's really not very complicated. Some great tools we use are things like answerthepublic.com, which is that screenshot I just shown, a really powerful tool. It's all free. Type in a question there, you get loads of responses. It can just be as simple as going to Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups, asking your connections, asking your customers what it is that they want. You can really get so much insight just by looking around Facebook groups, and you'll very quickly find out what those repetitive questions are that everyone keeps asking. YouTube videos, exactly the same way as with Facebook groups, are really valuable. And if you go to Amazon, you can actually search through the book section and find what those top topics are. There's a book on everything these days, and the top selling books are typically around those questions that people ask. So that's one little lesser heard of way of researching these topics. And then there's also Google Trends. You can find the hottest topics as well as the hottest products as well. It's a pretty straightforward tool to use. All of these tools you can use just to find out what that question is. That's quite an important part of this, because you don't want to spend so much time creating a lead magnet, create a really nice document or video that is not what people want. So the first stage is just doing that, doing a little bit of research, finding those burning questions. A bit more advanced tool is SEMrush. And there are Google keywords. And once you've got a topic, really, it's not that complicated an idea. The real thing you want to do is focus on your content. It needs to be direct response copy. You want content that resonates with people, that persuades them that you're not to buy, but that you're an authority on the subject, and that it needs to provide value. So 80% of that content you write, that could be an article, an ebook again, but it needs to be valuable, okay? Less than 20% should be pitch, and at this stage, if at all, a pitch. At this stage, when you're doing this lead magnet, you really want to engage people, give them something for free. And typically the only thing you'll ask for them is an email address. That's a pretty standard tactic with a lead magnet. You have a landing page, say, hey, you can download this video or this ebook or this program, and all you need to do is put in your email address and then we'll send it to you. A really simple process, but this content of which this content needs to persuade people that you're the one to provide that value, and then the real heavy content is in that lead magnet you do. But you're all business people here, so you will understand your industry better than most, I should hope. And all of that knowledge that people want, that should be second nature to you anyway. So it's the sort of stuff which now, again, more than ever, you probably have the time to put together. And it's stuff that can be used again and again. You can use this content, whether you're in the DIY industry or whether you're a local IT practitioner or in the health industry. You can provide this knowledge to people, and they can use this now, they can use it next year or in 2 years' time. So this is evergreen content, typically, which you'd want to create.
And Titus, we've just had a couple of questions about examples, and I thought it might be helpful to just give a couple of simple ones as well. I know you've got some case study information coming up, but I work with a client that does wheels, and so they've got videos on how to measure hub width of a wheel so that people know how to buy properly. It can be as simple as that, through to full guides on how to buy a retirement home or something like that. It can be anything, like those hair on fire questions can be almost anything, and they can be very simple, or they can be much larger topics as well. But you just thought I'd jump in with a couple there because Ellie looked like she was after some context there.
Yeah, actually, do you have any examples there from the chat there, Jared? Give me some examples and I'll give you some straight off the bat,
Oh, just we've got just the only example we've got is Rhonda was talking about her hairdresser, and just mentioned there that she actually got sent a meme, like just a little meme around people with lockdown hair at the moment. Yeah. But it's not really quite a lead magnet, but it is a bit of fun nonetheless. So yeah,
a great one. I mean, it really depends what industry you're in, and every industry there's an answer. So this is what I'm saying. If you're out there and want to know, and you've got an interest, put it in the chat now, and I'll give you an example. But let's say, for example, if you're in IT, what's one of the most hair on fire questions I can think of at the moment is, how do I get online and get remote working effectively with my team? That's a huge one at the moment. Mm-hmm. Everyone's doing it. So you provide free content as an IT professional. This is what you need to do. Help people do that for free. And that could be as simple a guide as, hey, go to Zoom, download this tool, get all this hardware equipment. And, just step-by-step tutorial. That could be a simple 2-page PDF with bullet points, or it can be a YouTube video, which is 10 minutes long. And you just tell them what to do bit by bit, by bit, and make it really easy.
I've actually got about 3 examples have come through. So we've got a few people asking about this. This is excellent. Yeah. So we've got promoting a program for children's well-being. You've got a couple of young ones at home, Titus. You might have some ideas there.
Promoting a program for children's well-being. Is that well-being or education? I guess.
Yeah, a bit of both. I remember seeing a fantastic lead magnet a while back for childcare centres actually, and it was kind of a brochure about what was important for this childcare centre. But one really great trick it had at the back of it was an evaluation questionnaire, which allowed you to ask all the really important questions from each of the different childcare providers that you were talking to make sure you had a really informed decision at the end. And the great thing about this one, it was all pre-ticked with the questions answered for the childcare centre that was providing this great bit of content. And so it was a really great way for that person to be educated, but also see the value of going to that particular centre.
Well, I think with that particular example, you kind of given me the answer already. Not you, just you, Joe, but whoever wrote that, because
yeah.
I mean, that is, how do you tell people what you can do at home with kids? I mean, one of the common things I hear is get an itinerary of things for your kids to do at home to keep them busy and keep your parents and stop your parents from going insane. That's been very helpful for me. Just little things like that. Give them the information that you would give them if you were running the daycare center or whatever the childcare center is. Just give it to them. Tell them what you would do and what in that capacity, and give it to them straight away. What were the other?
We've got a commercial lawyer, so we've actually got a lot of commercial lawyers doing lead nurturing at the moment, which is quite interesting. Yeah.
Now I know nothing about law, right? But if it's a commercial lawyer, there will be so many questions especially about the crisis at the moment. I don't know what they are, but use those tools I just recommended and find out what they are if you don't already know. But I would imagine lots of people are asking about what they can legally do and not do in this situation, when they can open, when they cannot. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I saw a fantastic one. Sorry, Titus, if you don't mind jumping, I saw a fantastic one for a commercial lawyer, which was around the standard building lease, right? And what your rights are within a building lease when you can't actually access your premise. So just providing that sort of guidance on how people can work through some of the challenges they have right now, what's going to help build up that trust and rapport at this particular time, and help nurture that lead, so that when they are able to pay for service and they are ready to get back to work, that they're going to look to you. They're going to look to you because you provided them that guidance in that time of need.
That's right. Yeah. I know my wife's accountant. He's done some great stuff now, because everyone's all up and down. They don't know how they can get more money from the government, what they're allowed to take in terms of the subsidies and all of that sort of stuff. So rather than just dealing with the clients one by one, he's sending out great reams of documentation and videos online about how to do this yourself, which is great. He's sending that everywhere, and I've just thought, well, okay, well, yeah. I won't tell his name, but Mr. Accountant, why don't you also just do a little Facebook promotion on that? Because that's great content that he's just shared with my wife. And, there's all sorts you can do. And it's not rocket science a lot of the time. It's just, the thing is, you guys as professionals in your industry actually know all the knowledge. You just probably need to just do a little bit of research to make sure you have those hair on fire questions. You may know them already. Just get them clarified and confirmed with these tools. And or with your peers or with your customers. And once you've found that out, write the content. And you probably already know all the content, all the answers to the content you need to write. You just need to work out what the subject is and then write it.
So we've got about 5 or 6 other industries that have been asked. What I might ask is that we'll just get you to carry on, Titus, and we'll get through the rest of the content so that we don't miss anything out. And when we get to the Q&A section, we might just workshop a few of those ideas for people, just to see if we can come up with some ideas and things to kickstart their thinking in the space. But we'll just hold off on any other industries for now, otherwise we could be here all day.
Absolutely.
And we'll just get through some of these. But thank you very much for sending through your suggestions, and we'll try and address as many of them as we can when we get towards the Q&A section.
Okay. Yep. Absolutely. So the expert tip that I'll give you is go the extra mile. Again, now more than ever is the time to build trust and nurture relationships. And you do this by providing value without necessarily expecting anything back, at least right away. Now, go the extra mile. I don't mean just, write the most awesome document in the world, but, write it or give them that freebie, and then afterwards follow up with them. Use if you've got the know-how, use marketing automation tools to send them more free more free stuff, again and again. Send them several pieces of free material that resonates with them. It shares your knowledge, it shares your brand name with them. If I receive a series of emails which I genuinely find useful, that company's brand name will stick in my mind the next time I need any services remotely related to it. And if I don't need those services, I'll probably recommend someone else to them, because I think, hey, these guys know their stuff. So it's about providing that value without necessarily expecting anything back right away. And you don't even if you don't know all this clever marketing automation stuff, there's really a lot of things you can do without that, like using the phone. It's a very undervalued piece of technology a lot of the time, but you can actually get in touch with everyone who downloads your leads if they provide a phone number, and just follow up, find out more about them, their business, they're struggling with at the moment, and help them now, get rewards later. That's the key thing, which is it's worked very, very well for lots of clients and lots of businesses around the world up till now, and now I think it's just going to be that much more powerful. So what does a lead magnet workflow look like? So getting into the technical things, technical side, what we typically do on a website-based lead magnet. So on the left, we have this whole array of different platforms which you could generally drive traffic from. So it could be Google, it could be Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, it could be any form, email. But the point is you drive traffic to an opt-in landing page. It's a very simple landing page, typically with a form saying, hey, download this for any of the above lead magnets. Could be 7 ways to get more healthy and fit. Could be any of the subjects we just talked about. That will then give you a welcome email with a link to the lead magnet. And from that lead magnet, we then will typically proceed through a series of emails of useful content, content that links to value add materials. So the emails will either have it directly in them, or they'll link to pages on your website with the value add content or videos. And it's constantly a game of providing more value. Eventually, you'll get down to a sales email. I typically advise a couple of pieces of valuable content before you hit them with a sales email. But that's a well-structured sales email with very persuasive text. Tell them, hey, would you mind, you might be trying to sell them something small, something big, whatever it is related to your industry. But that's when you get them with the sales email. Once you've nurtured them a little bit, and that could be in a couple of weeks, it could be half a year down the line. It really depends on how well you want to structure this. And I've also a typical thing that we can do right after the welcome email is we might have a survey as well, which is gathering a little bit more information about your customer, so that you can, rather than just an email address, you might be able to find what stage of the buying process they're from, or what sort of area of your industry they're really interested in. You can use all of this to nurture them and provide, ultimately make more sales down the line. So just looking at some examples, this is just a simple example of a not too complicated process. So if we start off with the opt-in page on the left, and then that is a simple form. In this case, with Allendale Homes, they have a retirement village, and real simple text on this landing page. It's just a page built on the website with a little form with just their name and email address. Ask them if they'd like to download this ebook. Then you send them an email with a link to the ebook. This is a really nice ebook, actually. It's really thorough, and it's actually sponsored by government council, I believe. So it's got that credibility behind it, but it's not really pushing the retirement village on people. It's just providing information about it. And then down the line, you'll have a sales page, which is later on in the funnel, and that can be, I believe in this case, it's a week or two later. That's sent out with information leading to this, and this is a very detailed sales page offering very specifically the benefits of the services as a retirement home. This is just one of our clients that we've done this with, but the same process exists for just about any lead generation business out there, and it can be far more complex than this, but this gives you a little bit of an overview of what that might look like.
And I think the interesting thing with that one, Titus, is that most people, it takes about 2 years for them to buy and make a decision on a retirement home. And so that's why this is such an important piece, is because there are so many people at the top of the funnel doing research and trying to understand learn what they need to know before making a decision. That's why it's so important to have a structured funnel like this for a business that has such a long sales cycle. And so the longer your sales cycle, really, I suppose, the more you have to think about what sort of magnets and nurturing programs do you have in place.
That's right. Yep. So next expert tip if you're new to email and lead magnets, I know a lot of people out there don't have a clue, might not even know what a lead magnet is before you came to this presentation. There's actually some really fantastic tools that make this quite simple for you to use out there. And one of those tools, which we use quite a lot in a professional capacity, one of our favorite tools is MailChimp. And that's actually free to kickstart and play around with. And for low volumes, I think for under 2,000 subscribers. So if you're a smaller business, this is a really good tool. You can create your own landing pages with a very easy builder. It's obviously got, if you've heard of MailChimp before, it's the most popular email provider on the planet. So it all integrates with the email database, and you're able to create marketing automation. Right? It's got powerful tools, but it's really easy to use. So if you're not afraid of these sorts of programs, definitely dive in and play around with something like MailChimp. But ultimately, that landing page at the beginning is just a page on your website. So if you know how to use this content management system on your website, you can just create a landing page on your website, and that might link in with your email system. It would be different for everyone. If you're on Zest, you'll probably be using the Zest email marketing system. So that's all available there. You can actually do it all on the platform already. But so there's quite a lot of tools and ways of doing that. ActiveCampaign is very, very powerful, a bit more advanced. So if you're really keen, or if you've got a lot of time during lockdown, or what's left of lockdown, then you might want to play around with these tools. They're actually quite fun, but it depends who you ask.
Yeah, people have different ideas of fun.
Yeah. That's me being a geek. Yes, I know.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm there with you. I just there might be a few people tuning in at the moment going, they're mucking around with MailChimp. It's not my idea of fun, but I get you.
That just leads us to questions, really.
Yeah, cool. Well, we've got a few examples here. I think I had some questions arranged for you for Titus, but we're a little bit short on time here, so I think we'll probably just say that we're going to run for another 5 minutes or so and just take some questions. So feel free to put me through the Q&A panel, and we might work through some of these examples. And I thought this was a really good one from Ali. She works as a physio and sports massage, and she was wanting some examples of how to approach a lead magnet. Did you have some thoughts there? I've got a couple myself as well, but I thought leave that to you as our expert.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one with physios, because I've heard a number of people trying to do physios virtually by Zoom calls. I just, for the life of me, can't work out how that works. But clearly people are doing it. So I think the real thing here would be giving away the tricks of your trade. So telling people how to do some of the basic physio techniques for free. Don't worry about thinking, oh, but that's what they come to pay me to do. No, it doesn't matter. They'll try it and they'll learn from you, and most likely, most of the time, they'll realize, I might be able to do this myself, but really I'm not going to get half the benefit as if I actually went to see you. If you can provide people with so much value, for example, if we were to tell you how to build a website all by yourself and you did it, you'd be really happy with what you did, but then you'd come back and say, hang on, I did a great job myself, but if I actually went to these guys who are the experts in it, what would the results then look like? It's the same for you as a physio. Here's how you do it at home. Here's the key things that you need to do if you've got a back injury or whatever. Tell them, and then later on they'll come back to you when they need it done properly and professionally.
You make a really good point there. So like it could be just around looking at what's the most common ailment there. And you mentioned a back injury. It's pretty common at a certain age. I've hurt my back a little bit as well in the past. And so it could be as simple as providing some video tutorial on how on the 5 best stretches for lower back pain, right?
Yep.
And if people are stuck in lockdown and pain right now and they can't get to a physio, and you can give them some relief right now, you're going to be in a fantastic position to secure them as a customer when they get out of lockdown and they want to address it properly.
Yeah, I also agree with you too, Jared. I think one of the most important things here is that you're trying to build credibility and trust, and if you are able to build that credibility and trust, then in most cases you've got a new client. And so video tutorials, telling them what you can do, especially in this time, where we're sort of locked in home, having to put up with our daily lives now. But building credibility and trust, that's the most important thing.
Awesome. Thanks, John. We've got one from Darren as well. What about the construction industry? That's a good question. That's an area we see actually a few different lead magnet techniques. Have you done much work in that space, Titus?
Honestly, I can't say I have. Well, construction is a bit of an interesting one because I guess there's so many facets of construction,
Yeah,
and
good
like
point.
who's your market? Is it everyday home buyers, or is it actually other people in the construction industry? If I just assume that it's construction about, you know, how to improve your bathroom and stuff like that, you know, if you're builders of bathrooms and house extensions, that sort of stuff, I would genuinely help them with tips on how they can do all of that stuff themselves. Tell them how to do it, or tell them the best sources to go to get your supplies for cheap, something like that. You know, invite them for things like that you find really useful and make your job more effective. And then, you know, later on they'll come back to you.
So Darren clarified, he's just sent this through. So the end market is end users and merchants. So I'm assuming there that it's a chance to maybe show products in context, give people inspiration and ideas to the point where they realize that that actually, you know what, that's what I've had in my mind, and that's what I've always wanted out of that particular project. And you've just turned that kind of dream into reality by providing them with some ideas and content that they can buy into.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Joanne.
Lookbooks, brochures, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you've raised a good point there as well. It's not so much just about how to do stuff, but it's how to visualize stuff. So if people are, if your customers are buyers of houses, they actually don't want to know how to build a house. They want to know how to, you know, that feeling of that awesome looking house. So you might actually want to veer more down the interior design route and show them, well, this is where you go to get the most awesome looking kitchen and look for your house ever. And here's a whole load of examples. Lookbook's a good example. You know, giving them advice around that so that they can have a bit more of a bigger vision about these things, which gets them more excited. Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, slightly in the building industry, I actually helped execute a lead magnet initiative for a building inspector, and what we helped them put together was a cladding guide for home buyers, so that home buyers could feel like get educated on the different types of cladding for houses and start to understand what they're looking for when they're checking out different homes, and ultimately build enough trust and rapport so that when they went to buy a home, they'd get a building inspection done with this firm. Well, that was a great example of where providing enough education and understanding about how to buy is a great way to nurture that trust. Yeah. So I think we've got time for maybe one more. And where are we? So we've got construction industry. We did that one. Promoting a recruitment business while many businesses are still closed or have to let go one of their teams. So that's a really tricky one. Recruitment businesses. Any thoughts there?
Yes, recruitment is one of those things definitely on the decline at the moment, isn't it?
So what you're trying to do there, I suppose, is partner with potential businesses, and you're trying to provide enough guidance with them to make the right hire in the future. And so anyone that's going to be making a decision on hiring, you've got to think about where they're at right now and what sort of guidance can you provide them. So you've kind of actually answered the question from my mind a little bit in part there. People are having to let businesses go, business having to let people go. They're having to go through some quite tricky HR discussions with people. If you could use your expertise to help guide them as to what their rights are and how they work through some of these challenges that they have from an HR point of view, you'll be in a great position to have them lean on you when it comes to rehiring and trying to restart. So that would be my suggestion there, is to try and really look at who is the target that you have for your recruitment business, who do you want to talk to, and how can you support them in this critical time and provide them some guidance on how to get through. So that's just from my point of view. I don't know exactly how that would form into content. If you are interested in discussing that further, we do have some options to meet with one of the Zeald team, one of our strategy team, and probably just have a detailed session around that to try and help you come up with some concepts around that. That is something that we're able to do. So I do apologise. We've still got a few more questions there that we haven't quite got to. I think we've tried to cover most things. If we haven't got to your question or your industry, I'm terribly sorry, but we do kind of have to wrap up because we have gone a little bit over here at the moment. And so I'm just going to share my screen and we'll do a little bit of a wrap up here. So Yes, because otherwise we can't go too late in the day. We did say it was going to be about half an hour, 40 minutes, and we've gone over already. So here's what we do know. All right, there's the world's kind of changed quite a bit, and there's a lot of change. We know that level 3 has been clarified a bit, and when it arrives, businesses are going to have to adopt this contact-free commerce, right? So adjusting to meet this need is really important. And what we see is the opportunities that people are researching more than ever. Right, there's this lack of information, there's this uncertainty, and so people are reaching to Google, they're looking to Facebook and social media, they're trying to get as much information as they can at the moment to understand where to turn to next. Providing guidance and relevant content for your customers at this time is critical and a great way to build a database of people that you could contact or prospects. So our prediction is those businesses that use this time effectively to build a customer database will be able to relaunch more effectively. And so our recommendation really is to deploy relevant lead magnets and content out there into the market so that you can help collect contact details from prospects right now when they're in that time of need, help them through it, okay? So a little bit about Zeald. We've helped over 15,000 businesses transform digitally over the last 20 years. We've been doing this for a little while. If you would like some support setting up lead generation systems, please do get in touch. We provide a free strategy session or a website audit from one of our strategists, of which John is one. And so if you would like to meet with one of our team, then feel free to let us know in the feedback form that we'll be sending out a little later on today. We will be running webinars like this once or twice a week. Our next one is on Wednesday, a guide to setting up the basic setup of e-commerce. I'll actually be presenting for that one, and that is Wednesday at 2 o'clock next week. We also have our Get e-commerce movement running. This is not necessarily applicable for everyone that's attended today, which lead generation is more for service-based businesses. But if you do transact online, then feel free to go to zeald.com and apply to be part of our Get e-commerce movement. We are giving away 500 free e-commerce sites. And so if you want to, if that sounds like something you might be able to take advantage of, feel free to go to zeald.com and have a look at the landing page there we have for the Get e-commerce movement and apply for a free e-commerce site. If you missed part of this webinar, we have recorded it. It will be posted on YouTube later on today, so feel free to go and check it out there. We will send out a link to that as well, along with the feedback form. If you know anyone else that might benefit from these webinars in the future, please feel free to share the registered link on our Zeald site as well. Thank you very much to John and to Titus. We appreciate your thoughts and your time today. I wish everyone that's attended a very good day and good luck through the rest of this lockdown. Thank you.